Welcome to the Howie presentation. As you come across the Discovery Center, you've reached this stage. You've heard a lot about horsepower brands, but we're excited to talk about Howie, and that is the brand that sits above all the home service brands. So to start to illustrate this, to better understand it, as a franchisee coming through this process, you hear a lot about horsepower brands and the brand that you're searching at. The customer of horsepower brands is yourself watching this video. It is our franchisee, and we're helping entrepreneurs build a business within franchising and in the home service segment. But as you think about the homeowner, how does the homeowner see the consolidated brand that sits alongside all the brands that we have launched and that we are building? And that is Howie. And we're going to jump into variations and the pillars of Howie into this presentation. So again, welcome. We want to dive into our strategic asset, which is the data. And I want to go through this presentation and talk about how we're leveraging data to create true intrinsic value into the future. Then we're going to break down the three pillars to Howie, which is the family of brands, the homeowner community, and the home health. So the first step is to think about data in a different light. And so data is the invaluable source of potential growth within what we're trying to build. The key first is to recognize the inherent value, leverage it intelligently, and create this culture that embraces the power of it. And so when we've been building out horsepower brands, we've been talking to franchisees, candidates through this process for the better half of the last 18 months about Howie, because it's incredibly important that even if you're coming in and looking at one of our brands as one franchisee in 3 territories and somewhere in the US of A, that you're still part of something that's much bigger and much more unique. And the data that we're collecting from the homeowners that's relevant to your brand and the services that you provide, it's critical that we're leveraging that and consolidating it into a single source. So staying on this slide for a little bit longer, and we take one of the vendors that we utilize, which is Loveland Innovations, on the top end of that. That's the vendor that we utilize for the drone technology that exists in Mighty Dog Roofing. And that drone goes out to the homeowner's location and flies 30 to 50 feet above that home, taking pictures of that roof, all the way down to the nail onto that roof. So 1080 images, and we're able to retain that experience. And so you can talk about data, thinking about first and last name, email, phone number, things of that such. I like to illustrate to our company and to our teams to expand your mind, think further. What's the experience that we're collecting at the home? And so the images from that drone, that's an experience that we're able to collect because of Mighty Dog Roofing, that one brand, but then bring it up into a single database and tie it back to a home address. That same will be held true to the brands that we have within our portfolio today and the brands that we will expand into the portfolio into the future. I'll take another example as we just take it a step further. Hover is on here as a vendor, and whether that's the vendor today or the one we use in the future, but the key part of Hover, if we leverage that, and that can be used in the Groovy Hughes model, is with the home address and with taking 8 pictures, so the front, back, side, and side, and the 4 corners of a home, you can submit that into our technology partner Hover, and they can return back measurements of the exterior side of that home, down to windows, doors, the siding, all the elements of the exterior of the home. They can return back those measurements. Well, we could leverage that experience and that information, measurements of the home, and create that into the database. So when we pull up the home address, we can see roof images that were taken by the drone 2 years ago. We can see measurements that were provided in a bid. It may never be a customer that we actually work with, but in order to offer the bid and the price for the service, we have to take the measurements. And so we can retain the data, not just from customers that we've worked with, but from customers that we offer a bid for, or customers that may have come to our website and somehow we were able to obtain information from them related to that piece. So I lied. I'm going to go one step further. You think about ServiceBot, because you think about within the Heroes model that we have, ServiceBot is a technology used using Google imagery or satellite imagery of a home, and you can go in there and you can highlight your lawn, and it will spit back an estimate of the square footage of your lawn, because you need that to provide a bid for fertilization without ever even going to that home. Well, to gain that experience, if we can create the customer path and customer journey, or invites them into this tool and gets them to go through that process, and we can then retain that data. They may actually not choose to go with our Heroes brand into the future, but they went through an experience as a consumer on our website, and we can collect that data. And so all of it becomes relevant. How we leverage it into the future and leverage it intelligently, time will tell, because we need a lot more customer interactions as it relates to that. So to expand it into the customer interactions, and you think about all these elements that are on this wheel here, this is all part of a customer journey, whether they become a customer or remain a prospect. All throughout this journey, we're able to collect the data and the understanding of what's happening within our audience. It allows us to know the audience. We can engineer pathways better, deliver quality content and services. And so what we try to mean by that, and again, this is a constant thing that we're retooling and reworking, but if you become a Gatsby Glass consumer and you do work with us, and you had a high-end 15,000 shower door installation or bathroom remodel that occurred through the Gatsby Glass brand, you're obviously a consumer that may invest into future services through Howie in our brands that are on the higher end. And so when we think about window treatments with Bumblebee blinds, that's a consumer that might tell you, our audience of that consumer will tell you that they're looking to afford a higher end window treatment versus the lower end. And by knowing that audience, knowing those customer interactions that occur, whether in the prospecting stage or actually in the current customer stage, those are all elements of using our data as a strategic asset. We do not have anything in relation to carrier pigeons as shown on the screen. My team enjoys putting some elements into the presentation to try to catch me off guard. So again, going back to that first slide, talking about data and understanding as a strategic asset, that's how we view it within horsepower. And it's key as we go through the remaining parts of the slide is really thinking about, if the data is the foundation, how do we continue to build on top of that set and build a unique experience for the homeowner. So pillars that we talk to within our company of what we're striving to and trying to make sure as we establish projects under the Howie that's falling under one of these pillars and getting us to our end goal and objective is family of brands, homeowner community, and home health. And we'll go through these pillars. They kind of on occasion blend together. Sometimes all three work together. But we're going to go through these slides and cover each one. So first, family brands, and this isn't unique in marketing. This has been done time and time again. I reference oftentimes comparing this to Marriott, and I'm a Marriott Bonvoy member. And once I became a Bonvoy member many years ago, that's just where I stay. I couldn't tell you the Hilton hotels within their family brands, but I can tell you whether a hotel is part of the Marriott family. It's just because I become accustomed through that Bonvoy membership to stay within Marriott. So you step back and there's brand recognition and equity. Marriott has in me as a consumer. There's trust and confidence. I know what to expect. There's loyalty, obviously, through the points and things of that such. It allows you from the corporate side to reach market saturation and use it as an accelerator easier as you launch future brands or new franchisees come into the market and thinking of Howie as the family of brands. And the tactical piece, the cross promotion opportunities, and really when you think about Howie, the question I receive the most from candidates is, how are we going to cross market? Well, that is a key question. I actually look at that as more tactical and an easier box to check once we have the branding in place with Howie, because now we can interact with customers and there's a clear path of why you started with Mighty Dog Roofing, but now you're being introduced to iPhone, and why do those two things connect together? And they do so under the Howie umbrella. So a key part here is, it's just to stop, is the customer of horsepower brands is a franchisee. The customer of Howie is a homeowner, and that's what's connecting all the pieces together. some of the marketing elements and brand recognition, these slides will kind of illustrate, even something as simple as direct mail. Let's go back to an effective marketing strategy as direct mail. This allows us to do it in an umbrella of brands approach and really target consumers in a different way. And so we're excited to be able to start to launch this direct mailer and test markets even as early as here 2024. To step back though, you got to think about what markets would we test this in. And a common sense approach would be markets that have multiple brands under the horsepower umbrella being reflected in that metro area. Also franchise density. So we need brand density, multiple brands existing, and then ideally we have multiple franchisees under each one of those brands. We want some level of saturation to be able to serve a metro area such as Nashville, Atlanta, Dallas. There's a list of about 15 plus cities and metros where we believe could be test markets for Howie at this stage. So you can roll forward, you can see some of the handouts and promotional materials that could be encompassing all the brands. I always stop on this slide because it's important to recognize that Howie is secondary in terms of a branding to the consumer. You are investing in Gatsby Glass, iPhone, Mighty Dog Roofing, or any one of our brands, and that's the investment and the choice you're making as you go through this process. And Howie is intended to be secondary. We want you to retain that brand goodwill that you're building in your market under the brand that you're investing in, and that is the philosophy as we look to Howie and continue to go forward. It's a secondary nature. As you pull up to a Marriott hotel, the signage on the front when you're pulling in is not Marriott, it is Fairfield Inn, and then it says a Marriott brand, etc. So we want the same approach as you think about the trade and how the homeowner sees us. They do see it as the brand that you're looking at, and then you become part of the Howie family. So, going further with the branding, but then entering into the second pillar of homeowner community, we want to establish an area where homeowners can come to get answers around their home. And we have a unique opportunity because of the multiple services that we're offering to do that in a way where, yes, ultimately we'd all love to gain lead generation from this, the accelerator piece of Howie. We want lead generation to occur. But the invitation for the consumer or the homeowner on the front end is an area to go get knowledge and go get information and create this community long term of homeowners that can trust into Howie as a reputable source to gain knowledge about DIY services on saving energy, like installing a Nest thermostat, or looking at other services that have be offered as a contractor to save energy, such as installing spray foam insulation. So this element is unique into what we have because we have the relationship with the franchisee. You can compare this somewhat similar to what Angie or Thumbtack, which is really a lead generation site that passes it on to a contractor in everywhere US of A. They are a marketing engine that passes it on. In this world, we are the family. And so the franchise or franchisee relationship allows us to see the end service installed and put into place into that market where Angie, once the handoff has occurred, they truly don't know what that homeowner experience was like with the installation and how the contractor performed and all those things. We have this unique opportunity to take the consumer A to Z and then back again A to Z 360 degrees and keep that customer inside of our family of brands. That last slide, just a key point. We do have the minimal viable product of stage one of we are launching our Howie website at the end of Q2 2024. We expect it to be launched prior to that, but it will be launched before June 30th, 2024. There's already some social media profiles that exist. And so if you're in this process, I encourage you to follow us on Facebook and the social profiles. Right now, we're building content. There's no call to action or areas where you can click and experience as a consumer. We're building the content and continue to create a platform. And so there's a lot of SEO components that go around this. And so we're starting now with that content and building on top of it layer by layer. And so you can check out some of the social profiles to understand that it's in the early stages and it's for the purpose of building the content out. So you take the homeowner community, which was our second pillar, and you're combining it further into potentially around this home health idea is what is our third and final pillar. But these next few slides is all about our current customer. So you chose to do business with heroes on the screen, and you're going to be introduced through emails and texts and maybe invitations to pay for your services. And that's when you start to get introduced into the Howie system. And so when I stayed at a Marriott hotel, I can't recall how I actually came across Bonvoy or got invited into their membership program, but it was just a natural, seamless way that I eventually as a consumer just joined that loyalty program. It will be similar to Howie is. You're going to start more common with one of our brands, and then you'll be invited into the family of brands and be able to connect and see other services. So on the screen is a desktop view, but as you know, majority of people are operating off their phones, and so the majority of the slides here is giving a view from a mobile lens. So we've signed a letter of intent with a software company that's in the development phases and is working through this, and we fully anticipate to be working in certain test markets with this software company in 2024 and be able to learn. We're going to definitely crawl and we're going to walk and we're going to run with this project. We want to make sure we get it right and we get all the elements and pieces together. Each one of the brands uses a CRM. Some of them are the same, some of them are not. And so all these different CRMs and software tools that we use at the brand level has to be able to communicate in a timely manner, back and forth, real-time manner with our software that sits on top, which is the Howie software tool. And so we have signed a letter of intent. And we're under some development phases with that company. So stepping back, just the ability to schedule appointments on demand and making that easy. The consumer has already navigated to an on-demand basis. When we schedule a taxi, we do it through an app called Uber. When we want to book a room or a flight, we're more than likely using an app, and we're just doing it on demand. We're doing it right now, anytime of the day, and moving forward. So we want the appointment setting to fall into that same mix. If you started with Heroes and you're interested to learn more about a painting project, you can book that appointment right online. You don't have to make a phone call, give your information. You can just book online. So the appointments, that's an easy box to check, but it's very important to understand that the consumer is looking for on-demand services, and we believe that this is a tool that can give them that convenience and then keep them within our family because of some of that convenience. Long term, we'd love to see some elements popping into this app around e-commerce. There's some cleaning products that go along with our shower door enclosures within Gatsby Glass that is Gatsby Glass branded. That could you order it through this app? You think about things that we would not necessarily sell, like such as air filters, but there's a reminder about air filter. And you could order it through this app, and we're just working with a partner behind the scenes. Smart home automation that gets in a complex area because a lot of homeowners have different types of devices in their home and being able to connect it all. But you can start to think about why would I keep this app on my phone? Well, because I can also access my Nest thermostat, or I can access my garage door opener, or things of that such. So then it forces you as a consumer to keep this app on your phone, and we can provide the other options within it. Which goes into the home health, and whether we may rebrand this or we may not, but right now it's my home health, and so to illustrate this, I always step back and think about the Carfax for your car. You go buy a car, you can run the Carfax report, and us as a consumer have been trained to ask for the Carfax. So that's their whole marketing message. You think about the home health and being able to buy a home and trying to think through the elements of can some of this data transfer over to new homeowners, and if so, like what does that look like? But then beyond that, if you're a first-time homeowner, do you know that you change your air filter every 3 months? Do you know you should drain your water heater once a year? Do you know you should do this, that, and all the obstacles that you face as a homeowner to think about what you need to schedule within your own home. And then obviously being able to insert some of our services and being able to schedule and remind our consumers about holiday light, like in the September timeframe, remind them to consider booking the appointment so that we can hang holiday lights for them. So there's a lot of opportunities within here. And I think what's key here is some of this is DIY, some of this is knowledge guides, and some of it's tying back to our services. Not everything should tie directly to paying money for. There should be a freemium type of a content within this tool. So again, you as a homeowner want to keep this on your phone and on your device. It goes into the discovery and then the book and then the buy, the unique piece. And we're working through these concepts because it's harder in the home service side because oftentimes our services require us to go to the home to provide the bid, but some of our services may not. So how can you discover services within the lawn care brand and know that you can choose bi-weekly or weekly, and we could put that bestseller there, and we're trying to coach that consumer in picking the certain type of service that we want them to pick, and also have some pricing on there. These are elements as you look at this on the screen. This is definitely long term. So I want you to pause and think about that. This is something that we have to go through all of our test markets and really build upon this. This is something as we look out 2025, 2026 in terms of building out at reasonable scale. The payment methods, hope to see this at an earlier stage, maybe even as early as 2024 for our test markets. And the reason is I think that this is a way to introduce Howie to our current customers is, hey, you're able to pay online using our Howie tool. And you can really say that with any brand that you're part of. And then they start to realize, oh, I didn't realize Gatsby Glass is part of Howie, and I can pay for this here, and I can also look for other services. So the payment methods is what I see as an easy pathway for a consumer to be introduced into Howie and what it's all about. The financing on here, that's a long-term goal of just myself, is I'd love for this tool to be able to offer financing options. Some of those financing options might just be 4 easy payments over 4 months for some of our services of $2,500 or less, such as like holiday lighting installation, where you could sell that service, and if they can't afford to pay you the certain amount of money today here in September, that's perfect. We actually offer 4 easy installments. If you'd like to sign up today, I can schedule you, make sure you're on the books for your lighting installation, but you can start to pay for that service today. How does that sound? Type of a nature in terms of working with the consumer, but then also long-term financing, and that's the harder play into this app because of the many parties that exist in long-term financing, whether it's within a painting project or roofing project. There is, unfortunately, at this time, we're trying to find a one-size-fits-all vendor option, and that really doesn't exist across all brands. There's ones that are unique to roofing, unique to solar, unique to painting, and we're trying to figure out how to incorporate that under this app to make it meaningful for the homeowner. Look at their dashboard in the lens of future appointments coming up, appointments they need to schedule. They can leave reviews for services, and these aren't Google reviews, but actually reviews that would be proprietary and they exist within the Howie system. And so there's a lot of elements to just give the customer a dashboard lens or understanding what's coming into the future. The Howie Vault, this, and it may be called something else into the future, but the idea here is you have services performed, and maybe you've had services performed in the past, such as window treatments. What comes with that is a manufacturer warranty that is very strong for the blinds itself, or maybe you've had warranties for workmanship craft on a roof installation, or you had images of that roof. And so how can we take some of that data and those experiences I talked about, and how can we actually put that in front of the customer as well? And so then they even see the measurements of their exterior side of their home, and then it's unique within here. And does that tie into being able to bid future work? Because we already have your exterior home measurements, and if nothing else has changed with your home, we already could bid additional work utilizing those measurements. So a lot of concepts here that what we know here at Horsepower Brands is we're retaining the data right now, and we're consolidating it into a single database and servers, leveraging that data to make sense in the consumer element, are things that we'll continue to unlock as we go forward. Coming back to the desktop view, you can kind of see, again, there's a lot more to unpack within Howie. As we think about the community that we want to create, the home health we want to create, going back to 2 of those 3 pillars, there's just a lot of opportunity, a lot of ideas that we could throw at this project. We want to make sure we create an MVP, a minimum viable product, and launch this in phases and do the appropriate tests in certain markets and then take the next step. And so it's important that you just step back and realize with this Howie project. Thank you for taking the time, and hopefully you've made it through this long video and understood what Howie is, and it helps you gauge more interest into Horsepower Brands, but that you understand that this is a long-term project. And within franchising, you sign typically a 10-year franchise agreement, and you want to hitch your wagon to somebody that has a 10-year view. And oftentimes single franchisors, they are not able to incorporate teams that can work towards what 10 years looks like from today. And this Howie project goes way beyond 1 quarter, 1 year, 3 years. It's going beyond 10 years, because all these customer interactions just unlocks a new option, a new opportunity. And we want to do this in a smart way under the Howie umbrella, and we want to continue to build this long-term with Horsepower and Howie. So again, thank you for taking the time and listening to the presentation on Howie.